Welcome to Sensible Secondhand Reviews, the series where we look at practical and supposedly sensible cars that you can buy between £1,000 and £5,000 and film them in a manner befitting of their modest budget. This is a 2009 Fiat 500 1.2 Lounge. Probably one of the most popular little cars on the market over the last certainly 10 years or so. And this one's not the average one. I'm very grateful to Genevieve, who owns this car, and Mr. Bill, who has featured this car on his Walls Wheels YouTube channel, for bringing the car today for review. So I've taken advantage of the fact that actually we are at the Midlands social event for the Lloyd Consulting channel to have a go at this, and found some nice roads near Kyneton, Warwickshire, to be able to actually put this car through its paces. So far it's pretty good. This generation of 500 arrived in 2007, although I think for the UK market it actually sales starting in 2008. This is the least powerful engine that they did. It's a 1.2 with 69 horsepower. It's the fire engine, which has been around actually in one form or another since 1985. I think you can still buy this engine in turbo form in the Abarth versions of this car, but we won't be focusing on those today. Other versions of the 500 have had various engine options. One I'd probably recommend, other than this 1.2 if you need to go a bit faster, is a 1.4 version of this engine generating 100 horsepower. Same engine that was in the Fiat Panda 100 horsepower, which you know, it's not really a surprise given that name. A few years into this car's production life, that 1.4 was replaced with a couple of the twin air models. I think the lesser powered twin air is still on sale, from what I understand. I could be wrong about that. But the 105 brake horsepower twin air has now been taken off sale. So it's an 85 brake horsepower. One of those, the twin air is just a 2-cylinder engine. It's actually 0.9 litres in capacity. Now, I'm not sure that the twin air is the most reliable engine. I haven't heard particularly good things about it from certain quarters, but I do know a viewer who's got one of those, the 105 brake horsepower version. He seems to love it, so there we go. The engine though that you'll find most commonly today on new 500s, we are still selling this car on this platform, is a mild hybrid 1 litre, that is a Firefly engine. That one actually generates about the same power as this. It's around, if I remember, 70 horsepower, and just is a bit more competitive in terms of emissions than this 1.2, which is the most popular engine. But I've just been going up a hill and I've found that it's just a little bit on the slower side than I would have imagined. So perhaps not the best for the most sporty drive. Although what I have found with this car is that actually it handles a little bit better than I was expecting. Now, it's not like a Panda 100 horsepower, and of course Mr. Bill, who has recently had this on his channel, has a Panda 100 horsepower. So he's very familiar with the difference between these two, despite the fact they're on the same platform. Other cars on the platform were the Ford Ka, the Mark II one from about 2008 till 2015, the Chrysler Upsilon, or Lancia Upsilon, that's actually still in production now. And of course the Panda, which again is still in production. Fiat really have a long tradition of using platforms for ages, and you know, the Panda came out in 2003, so yeah, it's pretty crazy. This has been such a successful car for Fiat though, and you know, the other versions of the 500 name, such as the 500L and 500X, they don't actually have any engineering in common with this car at all, really, apart from I think the 1 litre Firefly engine that's in some of the 500Xs, that's a bit more powerful than the one in this, but there's no engineering in common with 500X, 500L. One thing I must say, of course, is that there was also a forbidden fuel version of the 500, but due to government legislation and other controversial reasons, we don't talk about diesels on this channel. So viewers, here we are. There is a bit of background noise because we're at the back of Jilk's garage, and we are at the social event with all sorts of other lovely things. Yes, there's Genevieve and Mr. Bill. This car's got quite a custom look to it because it's actually not a standard paint scheme on this car at all. The Porsche 94 just turned up. The stripes on the side are actually vinyl. The wheels are relatively standard, but again, I think these might be off an Abarth, the Abarth logo on there. Little friend outside there who's not particularly willing about leaving me left outside. Because there are so many of these cars around, I think what Genevieve has decided to do is to make the car stand out a bit, and actually I think she's done quite a good job. I don't think I'd like sort of just a black 500 if it were my car. I don't think I'd just have it all black. I mean, some people, that's what they like, but breaking it up with these orange stripes has worked quite well. As you can see, that's where we are. You can buy your own Jilk's Garage sticker. So if we look at the interior, bear in mind this is just based on the same platform as the Ford Ka and the Fiat 500, so it's not actually in many ways that different underneath, but this is a very different interior. It's sort of reminiscent of the old 500 or the Nuova Cinquecento from 57. This dashboard actually is a completely different colour. This is a custom colour which Genevieve has put in, and I think it does help quite a lot to just to break this up. Generally the dashboard's a body colour. Strangely, if you have an Abarth, a 595 or 695, it still says 500 on the dashboard, which is really strange. The gearbox is interesting in that in order to engage reverse, you don't just sort of shove it down to the right hand side as you normally would. What you actually do is pull up the collar like you would if it was sort of up to the left here. Similar sort of switch situation to a Panda, which is not a massive surprise, although just a very different feeling car. Got this massive sunshade on the top here, which is great. I don't know if we'll have the sunroof open or anything for filming today because if you tend to open those, they tend to produce a lot of noise. But this is interesting, having the rev counter and the speedometer concentric, and then having the rest of the gauges inside here. So if we just put the key in, so we've also got a colour coordinated key jacket on this car. I think they call it a key jacket or something. I don't know. It's a protector of the general key. There we go. So you see the it says the door's open, which of course it is. It's a little bit warm today. It's just pause that so we don't get any copyright infringement. That's just really best. But yes, the temperature gauge and the fuel gauge are incorporated into the one little pod here. I think that's quite a neat design, actually. These stalks feel okay, actually. I remember them feeling a lot more flimsy than they were when I drove one of these cars back in 2014. Same spec as this. This is a lounge spec, so it was the one I drove. I think I have the sort of white steering wheel and a white dash. Now, on some of the models, this is a sport button, but in this one, it's a city button. And I probably would avoid pressing this because it just makes the steering even lighter than it normally is. And if you're in any way an enthusiastic driver, you probably won't need that. Although maybe some people like it, I don't know. That little logo down there just shows the age of the car. And it really was a system that Fiat actually had at the time called Blue and Me, sort of co-developed with Microsoft. I don't really know what it kind of does. You've actually got a window symbol on the steering wheel. You can see there as well. It's got Bluetooth for it. You know, it's not a badly equipped car really at all, especially for the age of it. These interior door handles, again reminiscent of the older 500s, I think. Little mirror switch just here. It's sensible, I suppose, just like in a Panda of this age, to put the window switch just in the middle. There's only two windows you need to worry about anyway, so that's absolutely fine. The air conditioning is activated by pushing that in. I would probably go for a model with air conditioning, to be honest. I'd avoid the sort of base trims of these, which have steel wheels and no aircon. You really want to go for one with air conditioning. Yeah, it generally doesn't feel that bad. I mean, we haven't got soft touch plastic in this, but then these weren't expensive cars, and they're still not. I mean, a really early 500 from about, I think the market introduction of these was early 2008. You can pick them up sometimes for less than £1,000. I wouldn't probably suggest you do that, but you can do that. Right, let's see if I can get in the back. I don't remember if I enjoy going in the back of a 500, but we'll give it a go, because that's what we do on Sensible Secondhand Reviews. Okay, so just pull this forward. It does actually slide. Okay. Right. Oh gosh, it's not going to be dignified, this view is. Oh. Okay. Right, we're actually in. I can see why the headrest on that side has been taken out. Oh, hello, we've got a couple of little friends in here as well. Hello. So I'll just move that up. Okay. If I lean back. That's better. Oh dear. Ow. Yeah. It's this roof going down like this, which is the problem. If I put the seat back, bear in mind that's actually not my driving position anymore. Yes, I think it's a bit tight in here, viewers. From memory, the Panda is slightly better than this, but yeah, I'm not really going to spend much time in here. I think I would prefer to probably get out, which I'm going to do. I think I'm going to get out. If you are a person of shorter legs than me, then that'll be fine, but I'm not, so I'm going to have to get out. You can see here as well, the seat does have a height adjuster for the driver, which I did use. Let me just pull that back so how cut we can drive. There we go. Right, I think it's time we had a look under the bonnet. Ooh, a little 500 kick plates as well. Excellent. It's like a lot of old Volkswagen products. It's on the left of one of these. It's a little face is you know, the thing which I'm sure most people fall in love with one of these. This is the 1.2 fire engine. This is the most popular engine that you'll find in a second-hand 500. I think this has been painted on here as well, so it would normally be quite like that. They're actually very, very good engines. There is a problem with ECUs on 500s, something I learnt from watching Chop's Garage, where he does a lot of these. He buys loads of these. They are a cam belt engine, so just be aware that that needs to be done at the right intervals for one of these. But the earlier fire engines were less reliable than these later ones. Yes, as long as you service them, this 1.2 fits quite nicely in here. 1.4 is a little bit tight for doing a cam belt, just like it would be in a Panda. But yeah, there's not a lot to say, really. I mean, it's easy enough to check everything that you need to check. There's the oil filler cap, dipstick, windscreen washer fluid. It's all here. It's perfectly reasonable to do all that. And the fuse box is just there. One thing I think Mr. Bill pointed out when he actually did this car on his channel was it was difficult to change the bulb on the front passenger side, and I can see why that would be. Right, let's take a look at the boot. One of the things just to consider when you're choosing a 500 over, say, a Panda, apart from that rear headroom, which is much better in a Panda than it is in one of these, is the boot space. There we go. Unlike in an original Nuova 500, don't get my words out, Nuova 500. Don't know why my Italian's so bad today. Is the fact that it's a hatchback rather than the boot being at the front, because normally on those the engine's at the back, but this is just a conventional hatchback. Boot capacity is about 185 litres with the smallest parcel shelf in the world. Tiny little parcel shelf. I'm not going to get in there and see if there's a spare wheel in their views today, because Mr. Bill and Genevieve have a lot of stuff for a weekend in there, and I won't get in there and sort of sift through all that stuff. Okay, time for another drive, I believe. This engine actually sounds really good with this modified exhaust. I don't know how much power it is particularly adding to it, but yeah, it sounds good. The only thing I'm realising as well, looking at my camera view, but apart from the fact that the mount is in the way, and of course it always in the way because this is Sensible Secondhand Reviews and the mount's always in the way, is the fact that I've got really bad reflection in the windscreen. It's much worse on camera than it is in real life, but maybe that's just something to consider if you do a lot of filming in your cars, but most of you probably don't do that. It sounds willing enough though, and the 1.4 version of this is well known for being a sort of mild performance engine. The steering's actually better than I thought it was. It's very light, and I was told that there's not a lot of feel, but it's okay, you know. It's better than probably quite a lot of newer designs are. 0 to 60 in this car is about 12.9 seconds, and I can certainly believe that. But if you show this car a series of bends, it's actually reasonably good fun. I've heard say that this car doesn't handle particularly well, and you know, perhaps it doesn't in comparison with something like Mark 7 Fiesta. But I think it's all right. You know, I don't think it's as good as an R56 or R57 Mini either. I mean, we've had one of those on Sensible Secondhand Reviews, but then it doesn't cost as much as an R56 or R57 Mini, and you don't have to worry about the terrible Prince engine problem. Another engine that we don't talk about on the channel. You've noticed we haven't actually gone into any details about the trim levels on a 500, and there are absolutely loads of them. I think there are 20 or more, and there's a good reason for that. Is that whilst I'm driving along, I can't remember all the trim levels in a 500, so we're going to have to go back now to Job's garage and go through those. Go through those. Can't get my words out properly today. But yes, I've actually really enjoyed this car far more than I thought I would. One thing I would say about a 500 when you're choosing maybe a transmission option is that you avoid completely the robotised manual gearbox. I think it's called the dual logic, and it's absolutely and utterly terrible. It's really poor. It's possibly the worst automatic transmission I've ever used. And I hired one of these cars in Italy in 2014. That was just before they very slightly changed the appearance of the car, with I think different headlamps and different tail lamps, but mostly they are the same all the way through. And the robotised manual gearbox was just appalling. It felt like the clutch was slipping all the time. It kept getting caught in the wrong gear. It was very difficult to reverse. I would either go for the 6-speed auto, which I think is available on some of the newer cars, or just stick with the 5 or 6-speed manual. As promised, viewers, now we're back. Let's take a look at some Fiat 500 trim levels. My gosh, there are an awful lot of them. Standard ones I think are things like the Pop and the Lounge, but there's an awful lot more of them. I suppose we better get started. The 120th anniversary, the Anniversario, the Bi-Colour, the Blackjack, the Bi-Diesel, the Bi-Gucci, the Club Lounge, the Club S, the Collezione, the Collezione Full, the Colour Therapy, the Connect, the Cult, the Dolce Vita, the Dolce Vita Plus, the GQ, the Hey Google. I'm not sure I'd really want a car that was called the Fiat 500 Hey Google, but there we go. The Launch Edition, the Lounge like this one, the Matte Black, the Mirror 2, the Pink, the Pop, the Popstar, the Reaver. That looks quite nice actually, the Reaver. The Rockstar, the Ron Arad, the S, the Sport, the Star, the Start and Stop. This hasn't started up, I don't think, this car. The Street, the Twin Air Plus, and the Vintage 57. So viewers, the Fiat 500, is this a car that you should consider with your budget of between £1,000 and £5,000? Well, rather like the Panda 100 horsepower, I've quite, enjoyed it in a way that perhaps I didn't expect to. When I heard it was just a 1.2 that I was testing, my expectations were quite modest, having tried one of these cars in Italy about 7 years ago. But that principally was because of the terrible gearbox and the example that I had as a hire car. With this manual gearbox and, just some very slight modifications like the fruity exhaust, this is quite a lot of fun. I'm actually surprised how much fun it is. The Panda 100 horsepower does handle better than this. But yes, if you want a Panda 100 horsepower, then you can buy one. think possibly this with the 1.4 engine would be ideal for lots of people. Anyway, thank you very much indeed for watching this episode of Sensible Secondhand Reviews. Thank you again to Genevieve for supplying the car today. Social media links are down in the description below. Please don't forget to subscribe, to like this video, leave a comment below, and switch on notifications to be informed of the episodes of this and all sorts of other things on the channel. Thank you.
3, 4